Hi, y'all. Welcome to the Knit+Sip podcast. I'm Kate.
I'm Leeza.
So you've met Leeza on the podcast before, and we are relaunching the podcast because Sarah, we're so excited, she's getting married, but we're really going to miss her. She hasn't had a lot of time to join us, so we never got to do our follow-up episode, and we are kind of rebranding and relaunching at this point. So we do have a friend, though, since I know we missed our Trip Knits recap. We have a friend, Ariel, who traveled to Iceland for her honeymoon, and she has agreed to come on with us and talk about what she got, all the yarn she got in Iceland and everything great that she saw there, and even show us. So she's already finished a worsted weight Icelandic sweater, and so she's going to bring that on and show us. So we haven't forgotten about that, and we want to make sure that you guys will tune in for that one too. But at least at this point, we wanted to introduce that we are relaunching with us too, and we are going to be presenting a theme to you guys called Saturdays at the Shop. So being that I own a yarn shop, I get to see lots of different people, lots of different patterns, and I get lots of different questions. So when I started my knitting journey, I didn't have a lot of people to ask questions to, especially the questions that maybe felt silly or
that
even
sounds awful. That sounds awful. We have you.
Oh. Well, and you guys, because we have a community here. And so we wanted to talk about some of the questions that we get in the shop so that you guys out there who maybe can't get to a local yarn shop or don't have one that you've clicked with, that you guys feel like you do have people who hear you and who have your questions too. So the thing that we're going to talk about next episode, this is our relaunch here, and we'll talk about a few things we're making. But next week, we want to start presenting the concepts like the Italian bind-off. So just today, I've already had 2 questions about the Italian bind-off, had a question about it a few days ago too, so I feel like that's a pretty relevant topic. And then Leeza has a great story to tell you too with her most recent make about the Italian bind-off and tubular bind-off too. So we're going to be talking a little bit about the difference between those. I'll show you some samples next episode, and we'll chat through some tips and tricks with that. But the rest of this episode, like I said, we just want to relaunch, reintroduce ourselves, tell you that we're going to miss Sarah, but we wish her all the best, and then talk about what we've been making.
Yep.
All right. Well, Leeza, do you want to get started with your most recent make?
This is my most recent make. It is Lacy Loopy Tee. I'm going to bring it up so you can see the bottom, the hemming on it. And then it's like a drop shoulder. And so it is Lacy Loop Tee from Other Loops, and it is made with Knitting for Olive pure silk in Plum Rose. Right?
Yep,
Plum Rose is the color. Yes. And I
double held.
Yeah, double held. And I chose this one for my mother. She is very particular about what she wears, and she fell in love with this pattern. And so I was trying to get it done for her so she can wear it to church tomorrow. So she's very excited. A couple of the things, the funny story about the Italian bind-off is the first couple of sweaters that I made, of course, I didn't know Italian bind-off. It wasn't a thing in my brain yet or my vocabulary. And I was just doing a normal bind-off, a basic bind-off. Is that what you call it?
Yeah.
And my mom would point out how many times that she thought that was ugly. And so when I first learned Italian bind-off, she fell in love. And to this day, she loves Italian bind-off more than she loves me. And so when
she won't do it.
No, she won't do it. She just encourages me to do it. Yeah, she encourages me to do it on everything when it's not even appropriate, hence the sweater. So the bottom ends with garter stitch. It doesn't end with ribbing. And so I, the whole time thought, okay, I'm going to do this. And I get to the bottom and I think, okay, wait, that doesn't work. Italian bind-off doesn't work on garter stitch. What am I going to do? So I had to break it to her. I almost sought out like guidance from Kate on how do I break it to her that it's not going to have an Italian bind-off finish. So I did tell her I have bad news. It is not going to have Italian bind-off on the bottom or on the sleeves because the sleeves have the exact same pattern you see. And so I was going to have to do it another way. And she hands on hips, why? Then I explained to her, you have to bring that in from ribbing, and that I didn't rib it. So then she wanted to
because
recreate.
It didn't call for ribbing.
Right, it didn't call for ribbing.
It wasn't a choice.
She wanted to recreate the edge to make it have ribbing all of a sudden so we could do Italian bind off. Guys, I'm not kidding when I say she's in love with it. She said it looks very polished and very finished. So I told her we're going to find something else. And she trusted Kate enough, not me. She trusted Kate enough for her to find an alternative. And we ended up going with Jenny's super stretchy bind off, or stretchy, spectacular, whatever it is, surprise stretchy bind off. It's amazing.
Jenny with one N.
Jenny with one N.
If you're YouTubing that. Yeah.
Yeah. And she stood over me as if I was giving birth to her first grandchild. Still with a hand on the hip, watching me do it. And it took me about this far around on the bottom. And the bottom is very big because it's an oversized sweater. It took me about this far. And then she said, that looks really good. And I'm like, thank you. It was very nerve-wracking, but I'm very glad she liked it. And then I pleased her by letting her know that because the collar is ribbing, that we could do the Italian bind off for it. So in the end, she let me live, and I was able to finish her sweater. So yeah. The one thing that I did notice on the pattern is that, and I apologize for not having the pattern in front of me, when it got to the bottom after the last row of garter stitch is when you got to do the ribbing. It's like a ribbing section, I guess, because then there's the yarn overs at the top of it and the yarn overs at the bottom, followed by the end with the garter stitching. And on the picture of the pattern, which everybody falls in love with first, right? You see the picture and then you go, I'm making it because that's pretty. You don't make it because you're like, ooh, this sounds complicated or whatever. So I fell in love with the way the picture looked, but the ribbing size on the pattern is very small. I did find with Beth's help, one of our friends, Beth, she said, well, go look at all the pictures and see what they look like. And there is one person who actually has the ribbing about this big at the bottom of the sweater. And of course, Mom says, that is not okay. That is not what we want. So
not as advertised.
Not as advertised. But everybody else, it seemed, on the pictures had, you know, adjusted it based on what they wanted. And it is easy to adjust, thankfully. So that's what we did.
And we talked through like whether or not we needed to alter and do like, and we did
another 16 row,
do, you know, less of this, more, you know, to get more of that and length and everything. So,
and ultimately just tried it on her, my mom, a couple of times to see, okay, where should we stop this? She loved the excessive ribbing at the bottom, which she called it. And so we went with that, and she absolutely loved it. So keep in mind, if you're making this sweater, which I know you're going to, you're going to want to adjust it maybe a little at the bottom for it to look like the picture. The other thing that I noticed is that, and this is my first lace pattern I've ever made, and the first chart I ever went after. So I feel very accomplished at this point, but thank you. But when I was picking up the shoulder here, I'm looking at it from the back. So you see, I was going this way on the back, and then that's where we pick up for the shoulder. It said in the pattern, it was almost saying, pick up more than you think you should. It didn't say it like that. It was so much better said than that. But I remember thinking, I don't want to do that. I don't know what that means, and I don't know why I would do that. Well, as soon as I did it, I realized, okay, this is why they wanted me to do it. Because what it is supposed to look like is this side. We'll
take some close-up pictures too to show you guys if it's unclear.
What it is supposed to look like is this garter stitching here for the back that's straight across was supposed to bump right up against the garter stitch that's the pickup for the sleeve to go on over the shoulder. Because I didn't pay attention, and I thought I knew better. I didn't pick up more than I thought I should. And now there is on this side, it looks almost like a row of knitting in between.
Like stockinette.
Yeah, stockinette in between this garter pickup and then that garter for the back. And only I would notice, and I've been trying to point it out to people, and they're like, I don't see what you see. Kate's eagle eye. She sees what I see, but she's like, that nobody's going to see that. And thankfully it's behind mom's back. She doesn't even know. So no, she does know. And she said it's fine, that she wouldn't even, you know, have gone back and changed it if she could have. So that was good. I got the okay from mom. But other than that, I think the pattern is pretty straightforward. It was really fun. It went by really fast. It's oversized, so there's a lot of stitches. Once you get it in the round, you really feel like you're going. When you're going like one-sided, you're like, I'm going to be done with this really quickly. Then when you get in the round, you're like, okay, calm down. It takes a little bit longer, but overall, I really enjoyed it. I love the color, love the yarn, love the pattern. I love that my mom's happy.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Yes, she is. And I love that. So the yarn that Leeza used, like we said, it's knitting for olive pure silk, so there's a great drape to it,
and that's what they used on the pattern,
and that's what that was one of the suggested yarns on the pattern. And so using a plant-based fiber of some kind seems advisable for this pattern, as far as the drape and the look of what the designer was going for. So if you're considering it, think about a plant-based fiber for this one.
Because the appeal of the picture is really how it drapes and how it hangs and how oversized it is. And I think I did see a few pictures of some that didn't do that, and it looks like a whole different sweater. So just know coming into it, if you're picking it because it's cute and drapey, you need to do the right fabric or the right yarn. Yeah,
that's right. To create the right fabric, right?
That's right.
Exactly.
Create the right fabric.
Yes. So I have not forgotten about my goal at all that I set out to do this year of recreating 5 fast fashion makes. I kind of put that aside when I did the 5 trip knits, but I've definitely still been working on my 5 fast fashion remakes. I've only brought one to show you guys today, but I will bring 2 more next week. So this is I actually don't know if it's Rebel or Rebel. I'm not really sure. Cardigan by Suzanne Mueller. So this is knitting for olive, and it is the color, I believe, camel, and no, it's not. It's dark ochre. Excuse me. I started with camel, and then I ripped it out because I didn't really like the way it was going to look on me as far as being my color. We've talked about that. So it's dark ochre, and then the mohair is, I'm just going to grab it. Is LBA Cumo and Rust. So that is double held to make this sweater, and it's very cozy. Now I will say I did not pay attention, and this was me doing things quickly, is that it was actually, they used a sport weight, I believe, with a lace. So, you know, my gauge is going to be a little bit off, but I'm not that worried about it. It was always meant to be something I wore, a cardigan I wore over things. And the cardigan, I'm recreating it to look like, and then get rid of that fast fashion cardigan that has definitely seen better days. It's very long, so I'm going to do the long version. She has a short and a long version of this, so I'm doing the long version. I'm very excited about it. So you can see that the detailing of how it will be ribbing on the front all the way down. Now the back is stockinette. So this has been kind of an interesting pattern construction as far as the times that you pick up and, you know, add to things, and, you know, the way that the sweater was built. And I've really enjoyed doing it. It's been a pretty quick knit so far, maybe because it's a slightly larger gauge than intended. It's definitely a quick knit.
Hey, find the positive.
Exactly. So other quick knits. So some fun things that we're going to bring you today that you can keep following along with. And then we will give some tips and tricks in later episodes when we get closer to the class on this. But in store, I'm doing a series of colorwork classes. So from September through December, I've got a series of 4 different colorwork techniques, because that was one of the most requested things from folks at the store. So
that was on my 2025 list. Yes. I remember at the end of the year, she came around and asked us all, what do you want to accomplish in 2025? Lace was on it. Charts was on it. Buttonholes haven't got there, but you know what? We're not at the end of the year. I'm still good. And colorwork, that was my other one.
And several people had colorwork. So I try, like in store, I try to adapt the classes to what, you know, quite a few of, at the very least, the most frequent, you know, folks would want to learn. And so, color work was big for a lot of folks. So I want to show you a couple of the things we've done, and we'll link a Ravelry bundle to this in the description so you can see. So our September technique that we're going to be working on, and I'll share some tips and tricks coming up with you guys probably closer to September, closer to when the actual class is. But these are the rosewood mitts. I'm so pleased with them. I'm just going to put one on because I think you can see it a little bit better that way. So
pretty.
Rosewood mitts, I guess too close maybe. So these are mosaic knitting, and I will say they look different than the pattern. And I think a lot of the reason for that is because I sized down. So this is a worsted weight yarn, and it called for a size 6 needle. But when I've made mitts in the past, really a lot of the times, even with a worsted weight yarn, I've used a size 4 needle, and I like the gauge on that a little bit better because I want the mittens, like I don't really want mittens to be loose and kind of gappy. And so I think that the pattern came out actually a little bit better than maybe even the pictures on Ravelry did, because I sized down, and
they're cozy. They're cozy. They're not cozy.
Yeah, and I did the smaller size, like the 40 stitch cast on, which I get maybe the medium size, and I mean they fit just fine. So I didn't notice a big difference as far as the gauge or anything like that. I didn't knit additional rounds or anything to what I think I would have done otherwise. And I just think the pattern came out beautifully on these. So if you decide to make that pattern, consider what your gauge might be using a US 4 instead of a US 6, because I think it really just pops the pattern. And this is Madeline Tosh Carbon Dating is the brown, and then Creamsicle Kittens is the light color.
And this is a great gift for, I know we're going into, school year and everything, but I have a lot of nieces, and I always see things like this and go, okay, maybe I could do this. Last year I did them all hats. So, it's sizing down for maybe the younger.
Maybe a little younger, sure. Yeah, I do have small-ish hands, I guess, but
I think that would be good for kiddo gifts as well.
I haven't had my daughter. My daughter's only 8, so I imagine they'll be pretty big on her. But she was trying to claim them. I was like, we have class. Wait. So October class is going to be stranded knitting. So same colorways and everything. And this is called the tartan headband. So the ribbing on the bottom ends up getting folded up into the headband, but I'm not going to end up attaching that until after the class, because I want the class to be able to see what stranded knitting looks like. We've got a glare behind us, but that is what the stranded knitting looks like, and I want to make sure everyone gets to see that as we're doing the class. So that is, people have thought it's a cowl because it's a little bit bigger, but it's actually just that the ribbing gets folded up under, and then it should be a pretty warm, nice.
It's really cute.
Headband. I'm such a sucker for plaid, so I was really happy with this one, tartan headband. We'll link that in the Ravelry bundle. I'm still working on the corrugated ribbing samples. That's our November class, but then December is in Tarsha.
Get ready. Get ready. Nobody's fully ready for this.
It is pretty great. I'm pretty happy about it. So,
I hold it. You can talk about it.
So this is Curiosity by Claire Slade. I saw it at Rhinebeck last year, and I've not been able to get it out of my mind since, but I am not a big Intarsha fan, and quite honestly, doing Intarsha again didn't make me like it anymore, but the kitten was worth it. I was like, I have to pick a project that is actually going to make me get through Intarsha. So hence the kitten, because I love kittens, and
it looks like your kitten.
It looks like my kitten. So we have a little orange kitten. His name's Astro, and he is cute. I am very upset with myself, though, that I did not make him fuzzy, because why would I not do that? I have orange mohair in the store. I could have made him fuzzy, and I'm forever going to regret that, but it's okay. I'll try to live with it. So,
but he does get whiskers.
He does get whiskers, yes. So he's going to get black whiskers, and then if you look at the pattern on Ravelry, there's little dots in the eyes. So he's going to have little black dots in his eyes, little black whiskers, and I think it will be my Halloween sweater. So this is a bulky weight yarn. It is Monocell Uruguay Cardo, which was absolutely perfect for this project. And the other thing I liked about, so I made the smallest size in this, and what I really liked about it is I barely have any yarn left over. So it's 100 grams, so 1 skein if you use Cardo of the orange. I used pumpkin, and then this is the color Sword, and I have very little orange left over. I have maybe just a little bit more of the sword left over, but not very much at all, especially once you get done with the seaming and everything. So loved the construction of the
construction
sweater.
was interesting.
It was. So I hadn't really done anything like it before, and I'm sure there are other sweaters like this. So if you've done one, let us know if you have another good intarsia pattern that made it worth it to do intarsia. But it was knit flat, and you had all the way across the back, and then it was just seamed only on the right hand side. So yeah, that was it. It was really just knit flat, and then one seamed up the shoulders at the top. And I did opt to add ribbing. I had enough yarn left over to add a couple rounds of ribbing at the collar, and I did want to do that. And then had the little ribbing on the sleeves. And so I think it will be a really cute.
What did it call for the collar to be?
For the collar, I think it was just like you pick up into it, do one round of knitting, and then bind off. I'm pretty sure is all it called for. And I was like, oh no, I like the ribbing. I wanted it to just be a little higher is what I was looking for. So I did. And it said, do whatever basically you want to do with it. And
well,
so I wanted to, it does. It matches the sleeves and it matches, I'm a little bit about symmetry. So yes, I'm excited to give him whiskers. And I would say that if you have not done intarsia before, this is a pretty good pattern to start with, because obviously it is very large, and it's not as if I did an intarsia blanket once. It was this was before I owned the shop, and it was actually a commission for somebody. I took a blanket pattern, and they wanted Mickey Mouses across it.
Is that the moment you fell out of love with Tarsha?
It was the first time I ever really did it. I think I had done it once before, and I really never wanted to do it again. And it was like several Mickey Mouses across like the blanket, and there were so many bobbins and things and just like so much yarn twisting, and I was like, I never want to do this again. This is a lot better than that, because really it's just, you've got the gray on either side, so you do need those bobbins, and then you get a little messy in here with the eyes and the nose and everything, but really it's just, it's one orange, so like you don't need to even split your cat color, and then you just split your main color, but you already had, like, I had 4 skeins of the main color, so it wasn't really a big deal. Like, I wasn't really splitting up anything. I think I just ended up pulling out really small pieces from the center for like the eyes and the nose, so I didn't do anything as far as really like splitting the skeins up for that. So I would definitely recommend the pattern. I think it's really cute, and there's a mini version. So,
does your daughter know this?
I don't think so, but they do love it. So if I do end up doing a mini version, I'll have to make a fuzzy cat. Why would you not do that? You're already doing intarsia. Just hold a mohair with it. Yep. So I'm pretty excited about those makes and talking about some tips and tricks of color work with you guys when that comes up a little bit later. But like I said, so next week we want to talk about the Italian bind off, and we will also be bringing on Ariel to talk about her journey across Iceland and all of the awesome yarn shops she went to and different yarns she found in her sweater. And then in September, we're going to be looking forward to starting to cover a little bit about color work and, of course, just other shop questions that we get. So I love getting all the questions. I love hearing what people are working on, what yarn they're using, all of the things that they run into. We've talked about another discussion. I think we've had a lot lately, because a lot of people who started knitting in January are kind of into making their first garments at this point. And so I'm getting a lot of questions about gauge and, fit and different things like that. So we need to have that discussion too. I think I've mentioned on here, I'm not the biggest gauge swatcher. I would not tell you not to do it necessarily. I think it's a great thing to learn how to do.
We call it the S word.
Yes,
here.
The S
or
word.
I do. The S word.
And when people start saying gauge, gauge swatch, like I can tell her like she's zoning out, and I'm sitting there like, sure, gauge swatch. Like I don't, yes, but it's a good thing if you are still learning about all of the yarns and your own tension and things like that. It's a great thing to do. I've got some other ways that I look at how the garment's gonna fit other than just swatching out something if it's a yarn that I've used pretty regularly. So again, we can talk about that down the road, not next week, but then maybe the week after that, before Ariel gets to come on and before you dive into colorwork. So we appreciate you guys tuning in, and we're sorry about the gap between when Sarah was so exciting that she got engaged and everything, but we were trying to figure out how to rebrand and what to do with the podcast. And I hope to bring my daughter on a little bit too and do maybe a few shorts with her. She's been knitting this summer, so hopefully we'll get some little short stuff comments from her and see what she's up to. So all right.
And I have all the questions, so stick around if you want all the questions, because I'll break them.
So Leeza, when did you start knitting? I feel like, I don't know if we've covered that in previous episodes,
maybe
but
not.
that would be a good thing to talk about.
Yeah, I started knitting incorrectly, I say, about 20 years ago. I was taught to, wait for it, knee knit. I was on straight needles that literally were this long. I had one between my knees and the other one was going to town. And all I could make is scarves. It was a joke. Mom would say, oh, that's beautiful yarn you bought. What are you going to make? And I'm like, a scarf. You know, I can only do one thing because I'm knee knitting. It always really, really blew my mind that people were holding circular needles, you know, and I couldn't get it. So when I met Kate, I said, okay, so I have a secret. I'm a knee knitter. And she says, you're a what?
I really didn't understand. I was like, what do you mean? Like, tell me about this.
And as gracious as she is, she was like, that's kind of cool. I'm like, I know you're being nice
it
now.
kind of is, though.
No, it's not. So anyway, she taught me how this January was 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Or no, it was 3 years. No,
I think it was
2023.
Yeah.
So all of 23, all of 24. Okay, yeah.
Yeah. So.
Bad at math. 2.5 years. That's where I am.
We have people who do math. It's just not us. So
it's Beth. She does math for us.
And Ariel.
Yeah.
We don't do math. So
we just come up with math problems for them because we have to keep them busy and keep their minds sharp.
There was a discussion about Rhinebeck booking last night that I was really glad I had a beer in my hand for, because I was really
I was involved in it.
I really was not, because I was like, no, there's so many numbers. Like Ariel looks at me and she's like, I think they're doing the same math. And I was like, no, there were a lot of numbers being thrown around, and I just kind of shut down and
I think the reason you checked out is because I was involved in the discussion, which I should have no place in.
And I couldn't add anything to it.
I hung till the end. And some math people actually was like, no, that makes sense. And I really wanted them to write it down so I could show my husband.
No, you hear it here. So it's like, it's out there that there was math that made sense. I couldn't contribute anything this time. I was just over here knitting my kitten sweater.
And knitting the kitten.
Yes,
you got
knitting the kitten.
All right.
Well, thanks, guys. Cheers.